we have the links to flood resources in terms of watching the condition of the roadways at readyharris.org as always. And most importantly is just to continue to monitor the local media, readyharris.org for information as well. We have our social media accounts, so just monitor that to make sure that you've got the latest. But really what this reminds us is we're so focused on coronavirus, but now we're giving an update on the weather, and we have been through so much of this. Just in the time I've been in office, 2 major floods, several chemical fires, now this coronavirus situation, and so we are resilient people. We're prepared. We're used to dealing with crises. We're used to sticking together through crises and coming out even stronger. And that's what we're doing right now with the coronavirus. That's what we've always done. And so I just wanted to say thank you and just brag on the people of this county, this community, who have always been strong together through these difficulties. And Jeff Linder is here to answer questions if anyone has questions related to the weather. All of these weather events, chemical incidents have prepared us to deal with crises, but we're very much in the middle of this coronavirus crisis. You better believe we're working relentlessly every day to make sure that we do everything possible to avoid an even bigger crisis, to get out of this quickly and to limit the effects of coronavirus in our community. Some quick updates on where we are on that fight against coronavirus. As of today, we're announcing 91 new positive cases for Harris County outside the city of Houston, including 1 additional death. So the total across Harris County and the city of Houston, we have over 3,000 new cases, or cases total, and we have 34 fatalities total. We also have now some very initial demographic data on fatalities. We're still working to collect it on cases, and we'll have that out as soon as it's finished. But for right now, we have the data on fatalities. I do want to caution, it's a very limited data set. So it's perhaps not wise to draw conclusions yet, but I want to make sure that everyone has the information, and we'll continue to share the data as time progresses so we can look at overall trends. Of the 19 Harris County fatalities thus far outside the city of Houston, 9 have been white, 4 Hispanic, 3 African American, 1 Asian, and 2 other, which includes Native American and Pacific Islander. Between Harris County and the city of Houston, so all of Harris County, we have 34 fatalities, and there 35.29 is African American, 35.29 as well white, 20.59 Hispanic, 2.94 Asian, 5.88 other / Pacific Islanders. So that is where we are right now among the 34 deaths that have already occurred and the lives that have already been taken by this virus. As a reminder, it's just a limited number, so we can't quite yet project overall trends, but we'll continue to be looking at this, and we'll add this information for the cases as well as soon as we have it. Seeing this information, particularly the deaths, we have to recognize the unfortunate reality that in many ways the path of least resistance for this virus and for the deaths in particular is our senior community, and especially folks who are in senior centers, in nursing homes, our elderly population. Like you, I've watched with deep sadness, first, the nursing home in Seattle that everybody was watching with concern, of course, closer and closer to our region. Now there is a nursing home in LaPorte that we've all been working to address. They've had over 20 cases amongst a population of around 42 residents. And so our public health department has been there. They've issued control orders to ensure that they're providing all the support they can to limit further spread of the virus, to encourage and ensure that there are adequate practices. Already, as part of our initial order and guidance on COVID-19, we significantly restricted access to nursing homes, to related facilities. But more needs to be done, and so we're continuing to explore what avenues we may be able to take legally, any additional requirements we may be able to impose in terms of screening, PPE use, all of that. So we are looking at that, and to the extent that we can do something more, we will. For now, we will continue to support through our public health department. So ultimately, our primary focus has been protecting human life. It's with every step we take. But we also understand, and I understand, that many people are going through very tough financial times right now, and that this is not just about our local economy, but our global economy as we face this crisis globally. We are working to see first how we can get out of this thing as fast as possible, and that is by staying home, by ensuring that we're keeping our distance and keeping away from contact with folks who don't live in our households, but also trying to see what we can do to protect our economy and protect the people who make this county what it is. Many of our small businesses are suffering, and it's those businesses that are truly at the heart of how we identify as a community. So this past Tuesday at Commissioners Court, we approved $10 million to support small businesses in Harris County. So many folks are stepping up and supporting individuals already through the recovery fund that was established by the United Way and the Greater Houston Community Foundation. As folks know, folks can donate at readyharris.org as well, and that gets distributed to individuals. We're looking in Harris County what aid we may be able to provide to individual people and other small businesses. For now, we have this $10 million program where small business owners can apply for 0% interest, potentially forgivable loans, and they may apply online also at Ready Harris. So if you're a small business owner who is being impacted by this crisis, this is to help businesses affected by the stay-home order, affected by the coronavirus crisis, and making sure that we have a lifeline. Now, we can't locally step in for what is a global challenge and fix the economy, so to speak. But we are doing everything within our power to add that support and to continue to ask what more we can be doing to support our businesses. The sooner we get through this, though, the sooner we're going to get our economy back on track. And as we've discussed, that time frame depends on how much we abide by the social distancing orders. And so I do want to remember county parks are closed through Easter weekend. They're closing tonight. They'll be closed until Monday morning at 8 in the morning. And we hope that, that folks help abide by that. I know it's tough for folks who celebrate Easter, who are celebrating Passover. I know it's just such a time of family, of faith, and to not be able to go through our usual rituals is so difficult, added to everything we're already going through. But this is about getting through this crisis together and as best we can, as we know to do every time we face crises in this county. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks in English. I'll repeat remarks in Spanish, and then we will hear from Dr. Shaw, who is here to take questions for Dr. Shaw or Jeff Linder. En español, repito brevemente, hemos estado monitoreando el clima el día de hoy y vemos una línea de tormentas que viene del noroeste del condado hacia el sureste. Estamos monitoreando aquí en el Centro de Operaciones de Emergencia esas tormentas, ese clima. Esperamos lluvia, granizo, inundaciones simplemente de las calles. No esperamos que se inunden las estructuras. Obviamente nada es seguro, pero se ve que esto va a pasar relativamente rápidamente. Eso sí, hay que tener mucho cuidado con ese granizo. Aquellas personas que son trabajadores esenciales que deben estar por fuera, como siempre, tengan cuidado, no conducir en agua profunda. Si ven agua, no saben la profundidad, entonces por favor eviten, simplemente esperen a un lado hasta que baje el agua. Lo más importante es monitorear los medios, seguir viendo las noticias. La página de readyharris.org también tiene recursos donde puede ver las condiciones de las calles y nosotros seguiremos trabajando. Verdaderamente el informarles un poco acerca del clima me recuerda todos los retos que hemos pasado ya juntos. Simplemente en el tiempo que he estado yo en esta posición, poco más de un año, hemos pasado ya por 2 grandes tormentas e inundaciones, varios incendios químicos y ahora este reto con el coronavirus. La realidad es que somos una comunidad fuerte, pujante, unida. Sabemos trabajar juntos, sabemos pasar esas crisis, sabemos recuperarnos de la mejor manera posible y es lo que estamos enfrentando hoy día con el virus. Entonces hay que seguir haciendo eso, todos juntos, porque somos un ejemplo de cómo se pasan este tipo de crisis, lo hemos hecho. Estamos preparados para manejar esto, pero seguimos en medio de la crisis del coronavirus. Y deben saber que estamos trabajando todos los días para minimizar el impacto del virus en la comunidad y también el contagio del virus. Unos cuantos datos de dónde estamos el día de hoy en esa batalla. El día de hoy tenemos 91 nuevos casos en el condado Harris, incluyendo una muerte más. De las muertes en total han habido 34 entre la ciudad de Houston y el condado, entonces en todo el condado Harris. Y ya estamos a más de 3,000 casos entre el condado y la ciudad. También tenemos un poco de información a más detalle que quiero compartir con ustedes. La información, la cantidad de data es bastante limitada, entonces realmente no podemos llegar a conclusiones todavía dado el número tan limitado, pero sí lo quiero compartir. Estamos intentando conseguir este nivel de información también para los casos y no solamente las muertes. Entonces, de las 19 muertes que han habido en el condado por caso de coronavirus fuera de la ciudad, 9 han sido blancos, 40 hispanos, 3 afroamericanos, 1 asiático y 2 otra raza, incluye nativoamericano. Ahora, en las 34 personas que han perdido su vida dado al virus entre el condado y la ciudad de Houston, entonces en total dentro del condado, el 35.29% son afroamericanos, 35.29 también blancos, 20.59 hispanos, 2.94 asiáticos y 5.88 otro. Eso es lo que tenemos hasta ahora. Recuerden, son 34 personas nomás, entonces en cuanto a medida que pase el tiempo vamos a seguir informándoles de qué información recibimos, porque por punto de vista estadístico es un número limitado, claro, por punto de vista humano son muchas tragedias y eso es el reto que estamos enfrentando ahora. Algo que sí hemos notado es que la realidad es que este virus, y particularmente en las muertes, ataca con especial abandono a la comunidad, la población mayor de edad, aquellos en centros de ancianos, de personas mayores. Como ustedes he observado con tristeza estos centros de personas mayores, primero en Seattle, después en nuestra región, ahora tenemos uno en LaPorte, dentro del condado Harris, donde ya han habido más de 20 personas con coronavirus dentro de una población de solo 42. Y está trabajando ya el Departamento de Salud Pública, ha estado en contacto con ese centro, han instruido órdenes para que sigan todas las precauciones que deben seguir para prevenir que continúe el contagio, para asegurarse que estamos protegiendo a las personas afectadas, pero también en el condado hemos estado viendo qué más podemos hacer. Ya con nuestra primera orden dimos varios parámetros que se deben llevar a cabo en estos centros de personas mayores, personas de edad, y estamos explorando bajo el marco legal si podemos promulgar alguna otra orden que requiera más cuidados en estos centros, utilización de materiales, de máscaras y más requerimientos. Entonces, a medida que se pueda hacer bajo la ley, lo haremos y por ahora seguiremos trabajando con el Departamento de Salud Pública. Finalmente, hasta ahora hemos hablado de proteger vidas, de proteger las vidas humanas y esa es la prioridad número 1. Pero sé que muchas personas están pasando por retos increíbles del punto de vista económico. La economía se ve afectada no solamente a nivel local, estatal, nacional, sino a nivel global. Entonces es un reto que todos enfrentamos juntos, pero eso no significa que el condado va a esperar hasta que llegue ayuda. Entonces, hemos tomado la decisión de ofrecer préstamos, 10 millones de dólares de préstamos para empresas pequeñas empresas a través del condado Harris. También sabemos que viene un paquete federal, pero ese dinero tarda en llegar. Entonces, por mientras el condado quiere ayudar, le agradezco a mis colegas en la Corte de Comisionados que han trabajado conmigo en esto. Y básicamente son préstamos a 0% interés o inclusive pueden ser perdonadas estos préstamos para pequeñas empresas que han sido afectadas por la orden de quédese en casa por el tema del coronavirus. Pueden aplicar en readyharris.org. Esto no va a solucionar los problemas de todos, pero es un paso que queremos tomar para ayudar. A esto le sumamos lo que hemos hecho ya con los desalojos, el trabajo que tenemos para las personas sin casa, cuidado de niños para los trabajadores esenciales y también estamos viendo cómo más podemos ayudar con fondos para individuos directamente y negocios aún más pequeños. Por ahora, como saben, también hay un fondo para donar si tiene capacidad de contribuir. Es un fondo que le da ayuda financiera a personas, familias individuales y puede donar a través de Ready Harris también. Entonces, eso es lo que tengo hoy. Igual, por el punto de vista económico. Entre más pronto pasemos esto, más pronto regresará la economía a donde debe estar, más pronto vamos a poder surgir del virus. Entonces, este fin de semana de Pascuas, sé que todos tenemos la costumbre de salir al parque con amigos, con familia, que va a ser el doble de difícil este año encima de todo lo que tenemos, no poder salir al parque a celebrar como siempre lo hacemos, pero lo estamos haciendo como precaución, como paso proactivo para pasar este virus rápidamente, no llegar a las crisis que se ven en otras ciudades y, como siempre, trabajar juntos en momentos de crisis, hacer esos sacrificios y pasar esto hasta mejor podemos. Muchas gracias. Ahora hablará el director del Departamento de Salud y está aquí también el meteorólogo para contestar preguntas acerca del clima. Dr. Shah.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you for your continued leadership support and support from the county. I'm Dr. Umair Shah, the Executive Director of Harris County Public Health and the local health authority for Harris County. And I want to start by saying thank you to our community. This has been an extremely difficult time for all of us in our community. And we know and we've heard and we've seen, we've observed so many challenges that have occurred within our community with social distancing and the policies that have been enacted. These are necessary policies. We're doing everything we can to flatten the curve and slow this virus down. It's too early to tell all the impact of that. Certainly we are working with our healthcare partners to understand and watch and monitor the best we can what's happening within the healthcare system. And everything that you as our community are doing, it helps us as not just our public health officials, our governmental officials, and all the partners, but especially our healthcare system. And we want to make sure to really recognize the real support that we've received from all of you as our community. So I wanted to start by saying thank you to all of you. As the judge mentioned, we continue to have increases in cases, both in the city and the county and frankly in the region and across Texas. Earlier today, I was in touch with our local health authorities across this region to have additional discussions on how to continue to have consistent strategies and work across jurisdictional lines, and we're doing that the best we can. In addition, we had a conversation earlier with our colleagues across Texas, our health officials, and some of the real challenges that they're facing in some of our smaller and rural jurisdictions, and really at the same time also the strategies that have been implemented across different urban jurisdictions. And Harris County really falls in between. You know, we've a large urban county, we have frankly rural areas, we also have dense urban areas, and really working together on that. The question that has come over the last 24, 48 hours and even longer is around data. And the judge has shared additional data around demographics, especially related to our deaths. in terms of ethnicity and race. We are committed to share as much information as we can as soon as we feel confident that that information does one of two things. One, that that information is cleaned up and meaningful and accurate and reliable. So that's what we're doing with a lot of our data integrity work at the health department. And number two is that we want to make sure that we are protecting the privacy of individuals, and we recognize to balance that with the need to know and the real wanting to get information out to our community. So we're working very carefully and methodically, but we are very confident that shortly we're going to be able to provide information from a geographic standpoint that's going to provide additional information than what we've been able to do thus far to our community. In addition to that, as the judge mentioned, we're also looking through all of the data that we have around case counts and hospitalization, so we can also provide the ethnicity and race data. The challenge that we've had, and we've said this multiple times, but just to underscore, the information we're getting is not homogeneous. It's not singularly consistent across the board. So when we're getting lab information, our epidemiologists, and they're not just getting one or two in a day, they're now getting hundreds. At times it's really approaching several hundred on a daily basis. The information we're getting from our these lab reports, whether it's from a hospital or whether it's from a commercial lab or whether it's from city lab or elsewhere, are not consistent. Sometimes we get just the name, date of birth, maybe we'll get male, female, and a positive or a negative test result. Sometimes we'll get a comprehensive amount of information. It depends, and what we're doing then is having to go back and get an additional amount of information, which, as you can imagine, with hundreds of cases that they're investigating on a daily basis, it becomes very challenging to know a little bit better about what's happening, including with the race and ethnicity data. So we're doing our best to clean that up. It is not, as the judge mentioned, not a matter of unwillingness or not wanting to share the information. It's just making sure the data, one, is right and good data, reliable, accurate data, and number two is that it's meaningful data. So we're working on that, and I'm hopeful and confident that we're going to have some additional slices of how we provide that information to our community very soon, today into tomorrow. In addition to that, I wanted to give a couple quick updates on testing. We have continue to be testing at Arcadia and Baytown locations. We have seen over 7,000 individuals, so that's great over the last couple of weeks. We also have received personal protective equipment, additional PPE supply from our federal and state partners. We want to really thank them for that additional supply. Now it looks like we can go at least a week to 10 days with the current PPE that we have. We are going to be recalibrating on this Sunday. So our Sunday, we're not going to have our test sites open on Sunday. We were originally thinking we were going to have to actually close Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when we were thinking that our federal partners were not going to be able to continue to support us. But it looks like with that additional support that the judge announced a couple of days ago, we're now going to be able to serve the community tomorrow and Saturday, recalibrate on Sunday. And our goal is next week to not just include those two locations, but additional strategies on how we can increase our ability to have testing from Harris County in our community. And we're working on those plans, and we're going to have more details of that next week. The additional thing that I want to say is that we know, and Judge mentioned this, that this is a long weekend. It's Easter weekend, Passover, Easter. Tomorrow's Good Friday. We again want to emphasize the message from yesterday is that spiritually, emotionally, come together. Please come together. We really want our community to be together at this difficult time, but physically apart. We really have to emphasize that we're doing everything we can to slow this virus down. We've seen some real challenges in other communities. We've seen increases in our own community. We've seen increases even in our healthcare system. We do not want to let off the guard. We have to do everything we can to continue to socially distance and really help all of us really get through this difficult time. My final message is that it's National Public Health Week. We are finishing out this week. It's been a fantastic week. The judge has recognized so much of our public health workers. Thank you, Judge, and our county officials. Really thank you to all of our elected officials, our county commissioners, everyone that's been so supportive of public health. I really want to just give a shout out to our public health employees, our tireless workers who are doing so much on behalf of our community every single day. The judge and I are asking new information of them and inputs, and try to do this and try to do that, and they're focusing on 3 or 4 or 5 activities, and they shift to focus on an additional activity in the middle of everything. They're doing that as quickly as they can, as carefully as they can. They're working day and night, and I just hope that you will also recognize them as heroes for our community, because they're doing this invisible work behind the scenes. National Public Health Week every year has meaning for public health employees and workers and volunteers. This year it particularly has importance, and I would be remiss if I did not thank our public health workers for all the incredible work that they do on behalf of our community. And with that, Judge, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Shaw, we'll take questions now. Dr. Shaw?
So thank you for that question. Again, as the judge highlighted, we're continually providing additional information, and I was remiss in saying about race and ethnicity. Obviously, we've already provided parts of the where the county or the community in terms of quadrants and age information and male female. But in addition to that, we're also looking at the comorbidities. And I will say, unfortunately, many of the individuals that we have confirmed that have died from a COVID-related death are seniors in our community who have had underlying comorbidities, underlying diseases or infections or conditions, and at the same time, unfortunately, it underscores the point that we need to make sure to not just protect ourselves, but really protect the others in our community. And the same message goes about seniors, those with underlying medical conditions, especially heart disease, lung disease, really immunocompromised conditions, as well as pregnant women. We want to do everything we can to protect these individuals so far. And we're going to be giving more information in terms of those comorbidities. But I will say that the majority of our deaths, unfortunately, have had those additional conditions.
Yes, I'm going to respond to this in Spanish, as you said, it's from Telemundo. Entonces, la pregunta fue acerca de qué estamos viendo en la información en cuanto a conclusiones que podamos llevar. Lo que hemos visto de los hospitales en este momento es que el número de personas hospitalizadas por coronavirus sigue creciendo, pero está creciendo de una manera lineal, no exponencial. Eso es relativamente buenas noticias. Ahora, en los hospitales públicos del condado ya están teniendo que enviar unos pacientes a otro hospital, y se ve pues limitada y ya un poco problemático el número de camas de cuidados intensivos que están disponibles, pero eso es de esperar ya que son los hospitales públicos. También sabemos que en los hospitales del centro médico, y recuerden, estos hospitales no incluyen, por ejemplo, el HCA u otras organizaciones, pero los pacientes del coronavirus ya forman un 21% de los casos de cuidados intensivos o de las camas en la unidad de cuidados intensivos. Eso es lo que vamos viendo. Seguimos trabajando con todos los hospitales y la región para tener información aún más detallada que podamos compartir, pero lo que sabemos es que sigue creciendo de una manera pues lineal ahora y que no hemos todavía llegado al límite del crecimiento de casos. Todavía va de subida, falta que lleguemos a un máximo y que vuelva a bajar.
Any word on when the home order might be modified or lifted? Is there any, I know this is probably early, but do you have any kind of projection?
Question about the stay-at-home order. So we're very much in the thick of it right now. I hesitate to even talk about it because, and what I was just explaining is that we've not reached the peak of cases. We've seen a more and more reporting lately, and so we've already crossed the 3,000 cases. We're expecting more positives. We're expecting the growth to continue. The most positive models, so to speak, project that we won't see a peak until at least the end of this month. And so we do expect those cases to continue to grow. Now, and the peak will be at the end of the month to the extent that we stay home and we stay far apart from people we don't live with. If we continue to do that, if we continue to do our part, hopefully this will peak by the end of the month, beginning of May, and at that point we will have turned the corner, hopefully below the hospital capacity line. At that point, the conversation then turns to what do we do now? How do we begin lifting the order? And so I want to be sure to explain. Here we're talking about one peak, but really I should be mentioning multiple peaks because you hit that first peak, then it starts going down. You lift portions of the stay-home orders so people are coming into contact again, and inevitably there will be more cases. And so we will begin to see another peak. So what we're working on right now is to try and secure enough testing at that point, ideally near universal testing, so that instead of having to shut back down and use that blunt instrument, that we can use a more targeted instrument like what they've done in other places like South Korea, where they could test anybody who had symptoms very quickly and then isolate them and those they'd come into contact with and not have to keep everybody else away from one another. And that's why developing enough testing capability is so crucial for us, because that will help us really manage those peaks after we see our larger peak. Otherwise, it will be very hard, we'd have to lift and then close everything again and then lift again, and that's just not an ideal situation. So what I can say right now is, in terms of timing, the better we do our social distancing, the more we obey the stay-home order for the next few weeks, the sooner we will get over this. And then it's about testing, and then also for folks to keep in mind, it's not going to just go away once the curve begins to flatten, because the virus will still be out there. And so it is to be expected that afterwards we would then see another rise in cases.
Are there areas of the county where you're seeing are hotspots within the county, say neighborhoods or communities where there's a higher than typical concentration?
We are seeing, you can see it by quadrants on our Ready Harris map. It looks like the northwest side of the county in particular has a lot of cases. Of course, they're spread out throughout. We are working on getting zip code level data. As soon as that's processed, we'll share it with the community. But again, we have to remember testing is limited, and so it's hard to draw conclusions. But we will share that so that folks can have it and just make their own conclusions about it. Yes, Dr. Shah, do you have something to add?
As the judge just mentioned, absolutely. The information is limited because there's also about proximity to testing locations, which also factors in on what may be looking like on a map that's maybe more cases there versus elsewhere, because there's a lot of information that's moving. One key thing that we have done as well is we've requested, working with our City of Houston Health Department partners, to get zip code information from them as well, because we want to really work together. If you have a county map, as you can imagine, especially with City of Houston, with a significant portion of that map. What we don't want to have happen is that we show Harris County information outside of the city, and then there's just a gray out of the city. So what we want to do is to have integrated information, again, very much as the judge described previously when working with the mayor, that we put the dashboard together, again, with that notion of working together to provide a one-stop shop so that people can understand the information. But again, that also brings the additional complexities that it takes time then to merge information from two entities to make sure it's matching.
There's a question, when will the heat map for Harris County coronavirus cases be ready on the Ready Harris website?
When will the question is about when will this zip code level information we're talking about be ready? Right now you can go on Ready Harris and see by quadrant. So already we have something of a heat map. We are working on zip code level data. I'm hoping the next couple of days that we'll be able to have it at the latest into next week, and certainly, we're working to have it out across our partners. If we have Harris County data, we'll have Harris County data, but as soon as we have it, it'll be out, and it should be a matter of days. En español, porque me lo preguntó Telemundo. Estaban preguntando cuándo tendremos disponible la información más detallada de dónde están los casos. En este momento pueden ver la información por cuadrante en readyharris.org, entonces ahí ya pueden ver un poco dónde está la mayoría de los casos. Estamos trabajando por tener la información en cuanto a código postal y estamos simplemente procesando la información. Esperamos que sean unos días, mañana pasado, si no a principios de la próxima semana. Obviamente estamos intentando integrar la información con la ciudad, pero en cuanto tengamos nosotros nuestra información, la pondremos en la web.
Earlier you talked about trying to really ramp up your testing. Is that something that's going to really require a lot of federal, state assistance to happen, or is that something that you're kind of looking at having to fly someone solo on, maybe in conjunction with the city of Houston?
The testing issue has always been an issue of supplies and making sure that we have the PPE, the reagents, the test kits, the machines to process the labs. Right now, the city and county total are doing 1,000 tests per day. We're working very hard with our federal partners, to our state partners, to see if we can increase that. Realistically, for the long term, in terms of an ideal world in which we have the universal testing we deserve, it would not be efficient nor appropriate, really, for that all to be from the government right now. What is probably most likely is that as supply chains catch up, more and more private labs and hospitals come online to where they can do testing. And so the more likely scenario is we will be able to do everything we can to ramp up. We hope a little bit more, at least. We're working on it, and we hope we'll be able to do something, but we'll see. But then as time goes by, that the more and more private facilities will be able to do testing. So then what we would be doing would be more of a partnership and working with our epidemiological teams to ensure, that everyone who has symptoms is getting tested, that we're doing the contact tracing, and that we're being smarter about it. Now, that's the perfect world. From the beginning, we've said we need more testing. We just don't have enough capacity in this country. And so we are hopeful that we're building that capacity. And you'll recall when we first announced the first order, I believe it was the recommendations where we said, no more than 250 people gather, or perhaps it's when we made the decision on bars and restaurants. We said part of this is we need to flatten the curve. We need to ensure we don't cross that level of hospital capacity. But the other part is to bid some time, to give us some time to catch up on testing. And so I'm hopeful and cautiously optimistic that in these couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks that we have, that the private labs and all of these creative testing ideas that have popped up here and there, that will really come to scale. And that's ultimately what we're reliant on. We are, of course, asking our federal and state partners for help and appreciative of the help they've already provided. Okay. En español, repito, para las estaciones de español y los televidentes, la pregunta fue si en cuanto a las pruebas, esperamos que eso sea por parte del condado, del sector público o de qué otra manera. Estaba explicando, por ahora estamos haciendo 1000 pruebas al día entre la ciudad y el condado y básicamente esas son la mayoría o una gran parte de las pruebas que se están llevando a cabo en el condado. Estamos trabajando con los líderes a nivel estatal, a nivel federal, a ver si podemos incrementar la capacidad de pruebas entre condado y ciudad y esperamos poder incrementar a menos un poco, ya veremos, no sabemos aún. Pero lo que sí veo yo, lo que creo que es más factible, es que los laboratorios privados van a tener más y más capacidad con cada día que pasa. Desde el principio hemos dicho que la limitación aquí son los materiales, los materiales que necesitamos para tomar la prueba, las máquinas de pruebas, la capacidad de los laboratorios, las máscaras. No hemos tenido eso disponible como lo ha habido en otros países. Entonces, a medida que se están moviendo producción de esos materiales, vamos a poder hacer más y más pruebas en el sector privado también. Lo más factible, lo que yo espero suceda es en las próximas 2-3 semanas, muchos más laboratorios tengan capacidad de hacer pruebas y pruebas rápidas, ya que vaya a estar disponible esos materiales y que de esa manera podamos hacer muchas más pruebas. Claro, nosotros seguiremos trabajando con el gobierno estatal, con el gobierno federal. Ellos nos han ayudado ya bastante, nos seguirán ayudando, pero lo más posible es que sea más bien una sociedad en la cual el sector privado hace la gran mayoría de las pruebas y nosotros trabajamos con el grupo experto de salud pública para identificar personas que han salido positivas, asegurar cuarentena de esas personas, cuarentena de los contactos y así no tenemos que cerrar todo nuevamente, sino solo ese pedazo. Pero eso va a depender 100% de si se logra llegar a un punto en el cual hayan materiales disponibles para que todos puedan hacer la cantidad de pruebas que quieren hacer.
One final question on the park closure, a corridor like the Spring Creek Greenway, are people required to not use those opportunities also for recreation during the weekend?
Yes, so the question about the closures, all county parks, trails, fishing, boating, all of that is closed. We want it to be consistent so people are not confused. And so the only place where you may see variation is if perhaps we share jurisdiction with an area that has not ordered their spaces closed. I did not want to issue a county-wide order for this. I just said county parks. And so the different jurisdictions have had the latitude to issue closures. But I saw Mayor Turner had just today ordered his parks closed as well. And I believe a lot of the mayors have done the same, and so I just assume that it'll be closed for this weekend. Thank you so much.